Well, just recently, we marked 12 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans. And in the years following the storm, millennials and young professionals flocked to the city, hoping to find new opportunities and high-paying jobs. Well, now many of those young people are realizing that those opportunities are not as plentiful as they anticipated. Kat Stromquist wrote about some of these struggling young professionals in a recent Gambit article titled, "Is New Orleans Worth It?" It's been getting a lot of buzz online. So we asked her to come on the show tonight to talk about her findings. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And such a great article. It starts off with this Tulane law school grad who can't find a job. Talk about some of the people you talked to get this article done.
Well, one of the things that I found was so surprising when I was doing interviews for this article was the credentials and qualifications of some of the people who I was talking with.
Yeah.
I talked to 2 people with law degrees, several people with master's degrees in different fields, people with science and business degrees. And they're all telling me the same story, that they can't find a job in New Orleans that both meets their qualifications and pays enough for them to continue to live here.
Yeah, was that surprising for you to hear people with law degrees can't find jobs in New Orleans?
I mean, it reflected my anecdotal experience, the experience that I've been hearing from, my friends and neighbors over the past several years since the storm. But listening to their stories and then also pinning it down with some data about the kinds of jobs that have been being created since the storm was really eye-opening for me.
It is very interesting because there was this narrative after the storm that New Orleans was the place for young professionals and millennials to come. And that narrative still kind of holds true. People still have that in their minds. This article kind of challenged that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, and our city leaders and our business community is still leaning very hard on that. You especially see it in areas like our entrepreneurial sector and tech sector, where they're encouraging people to come here and start businesses. But the opportunities that are here, like Brookings recently found that 7 out of 10 opportunities in New Orleans that are being created, jobs, are in what we think of as low-paying industries. They're in our hospitality industry, they're in restaurants and hotels, or they're administrative jobs. They're jobs answering someone's phone. They're not jobs with a lot of professional mobility, and they're definitely not jobs that are suitable for people who are really trying to build a career.
Wow, and that's a huge finding because that's 70% of the jobs you're saying are low-wage jobs, and there have been many studies about the cost of living in New Orleans and how ridiculous it is. Because you spoke about in this article that jobs aren't the only issue, right? We have tons of other issues. Talk about some of those for young people trying to be here and make it as a professional.
Yeah, I mean, I think the job market here has always been challenging, but what's different now, especially in the years since the storm, is the rising cost of living. It's the skyrocketing cost of both renting and purchasing a home here. For people who are trying to purchase their first home, they're not able to find anything that's within their price range, especially with the wages that they're being paid. There are more general external factors like the high cost of owning and maintaining a car here because of our car insurance system. But we also have this factor of the public transportation system here, that you can't really rely on it because it's just not what it could be in the post-Katrina age.
And most people have to have cars.
Right.
And then there's the high cost of those cars.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just problem on top of problem. One person in your article said that this idea that New Orleans is for young professionals is a cooked-up narrative. After doing this article, do you agree with that?
I mean, I definitely think we have a lot of room to grow, and I think we need to start being more honest about some of the challenges that are occurring here. I think, like, in the years since Katrina, I think people have been very hesitant to put forth anything that might seem to be down on New Orleans, and I think that's definitely contributed to us maybe not being so realistic about some of the challenges that we need to address.
Yeah, I think that's what's very important about your article. It started a conversation that I think many people have thought before. You sometimes think, is New Orleans equal to a New York when it comes to job opportunities and just opportunities in general for young people, or do we just keep saying that?
Right. I mean, I think we're not New York, and I don't think we should pretend to be New York. We have our own strengths here. But I think we also need to start paying attention to the challenges for people who have moved here and are trying to make a long-term life here. And of course, for the people who are lifelong New Orleanians who have always lived here, who are starting to push back and are starting to say, this isn't working for us.
Most certainly, yeah. Fix some of those things that we've always talked about, like transportation and schools, which are so important. All right, so did you get an answer to your question? Is New Orleans worth it?
I mean, I think it's an individual question people have to think about. And there's a financial calculation that goes into it. Like, can you afford to live here? Can you afford to get paid? You know, wages in New Orleans are 10% on average lower than wages nationally. Like, can you make it here? Do you want to have kids here? Are you willing to either pay for private school here or deal with some of the challenges of our public school system?
Right.
There's a lot of things I think people need to consider if they want to come here and put down roots.
Well, Kat, I'm very thankful for your article. Even being from here, you like to see these issues raised so that you can be realistic and start working on some of the problems that are stopping young people from thriving here.
Most definitely.
So this was great. Thank you so much for being with us, and thanks for your articles. You guys can read more from Kat at bestofneworleans.com or picking up a copy of the free Gambit Weekly around town. And make sure you follow _Gambit on Twitter and Gambit New Orleans on Instagram. Well, one person recently made the changing demographics in the city into a comedy show. So we're going to talk about that with our panel after a quick break.